So here is my mannequin, part 2 of doing a paper mache bodice. As you can see, I have done about 5 layers now. Here she is. Now I've left a really tiny gap all the way down, so when I get my scissors, I can actually go right up here and cut all the way up, and then I'll drill holes on each side to lace her up. But I want to actually make sure that she's fairly thick, so I'm going to actually do a couple more layers. I've left a gap underneath here for the armholes. Now the next layer I'm doing is I'm actually going to do pink tissue paper. I'm going to do 2 layers at once. So I've got my PVA glue, some water, paintbrush, a container to put my PVA water and glue in. After she is all dry, I will be painting her with some pink paint. Oh, and of course you need a coffee, which is a coffee cup that I've made, which I'll show you in another video how to make. So I'll just take the lid off the PVA. Put a really good dollop into the container. Then a good dash of water. It's about half a cup so far, depending on how thick you want your mixture. Stir it up really well until it becomes a nice consistency. And in between layers, make sure you drink your coffee. See, that seems to be like quite nice consistency now. You can always add a little bit more water if you want. There's no right or wrong way. If it's too watery, then of course everything just gets a soggy mess. I always use a drop sheet just to be safe, because I don't want to ruin my wooden floors or carpet. Quite a bit on the paintbrush, and then I just really slap it on. Now, because I'm getting to the last final couple of layers of the paper mache, I'm actually going to start doing bigger pieces of paper, because I'm trying to get a really nice smooth surface. Now I've picked up a piece of paper that has actually got the straight edge, and I've cut them, because what I want to do is lay it right across the straight bit of the bodice to try and make it as straight as I can. And I always find fingers are best to smooth it down, but that's me. I also go over it very lightly. Oh, excuse Ziggy, he's just seen a visitor at the door. And then I go over it with a light touch of the glue. Now with the armholes, especially when you get to your final couple of layers, it's always a good idea to get some scissors and cut. See if I can do this at the same time. So I've cut a little bit of a circle out. So what I will do is I will put that here like that, so it makes it a nice neat underarm. Come back in a few minutes and I will do a layer and I'll show it to you. Here she is. I've been putting on a couple of pieces of paper. I'm going to get a couple more. So I'm using quite large pieces of paper. Tissue paper is because it's so nice and thin, it's very easy to go on. You could actually do a couple of layers of this without it having to dry so much in between. But I want to do big pieces. So I can try and get a smoother bodice before painting over her. And of course I use my fingers and I just dip it in the glue to to make sure all the edges are really pushed down. I mean, yeah, she is crinkly, but once you've gone over that with another layer and then paint, and of course I'm decorating the whole bodice once she's been painted, you're not going to see any of it. When you need more pink paper, I have actually bought all of my tissue paper from a reverse garbage store because I want to try and make her 100% recycled. That's just me. So you just cut your sheets up. That's just for these last couple of layers. For the beginning couple of layers, I just tore my butcher's paper, my packing paper. You can just cut it into strips or squares, whatever you feel comfortable with. And then just continue putting layer after layer. Okay. Now, as I'm doing her back, and I want to keep this very thin so I can cut it, you always use a straight edge and you go down her spine like that. Makes it nice and neat. And then what you would do, slap some glue on the other side and get another nice piece of straight paper and do the other side like that. So you still got that tiny gap so you can cut the bodice actually off the dummy and put it onto a human person. Now across the top, you actually want to do the same thing as well. So it goes straight edge like that and around. Now, because that's covering up the armhole, you can just get your scissors and just follow the armhole around like that. And then it makes it nice and neat. Okay? Around underneath the armhole. And then more glue down her waist and hip. And more straight edges. Only because I'm using big pieces, because I want to try and, this is the last couple of layers. Just make sure you get those corners down here and on the sides. Try and get the air bubbles out. Like that. And another nice long piece underneath here. There she is. She's now had 2 layers of pink put on her at once. The second layer was pretty slappy, which means, you know, big pieces, and I sort of slapped it on. I'm going to let her dry for a good 6-8 hours. Now, when you're finished, make sure that you, wash your paintbrush really well, just with water. Otherwise, you'll be constantly buying another paintbrush. And whatever leftover glue and water mix there is, just put the lid on it, set it to one side, and you can add more PVA and more water to it the next time. So just make sure you wash it. So here she is. Now, don't forget, if you would like to see more, subscribe down below to see more that is made by Britta, and I hope you're having a good weekend.